Welcome everyone to this lecture series on using k-means clustering for color quantization. In part 1, we're just going to be discussing general concepts in slides to begin with. So unsupervised learning provides opportunities for very creative use cases on algorithm applications. Searching for insights, patterns, and just a general understanding of our data allows us to open up and apply methods to a variety of tasks, since we're not really constrained to the general workflow of supervised learning, where we're essentially just creating some sort of forecasting model either for classification or regression. We can be really creative with unsupervised learning because there's no set performance in mind at the very end. So one interesting application of clustering, to be specific, is on image quantization. So what we're going to do here is discuss images, computers, colors, and quantization to get an idea of how k-means clustering can be applied to different fields. Let's begin by trying to understand what a computer is actually understanding and displaying when they're showing you an image. So we're going to imagine an image of a single pen stroke here, shown in grayscale. So when I say this image is in grayscale, meaning the color can range from black to white and anywhere in between. It's technically not black and white, it's grayscale because there are values in between black and white. So you're going to notice here on the edges, there's those gray colors between black and white. And a computer is going to store this information as an array with values between a range. So for example, when you're seeing this pen stroke image, what's actually being stored on the computer is a two-dimensional array. And you'll notice 0 corresponds to white and 1 corresponds to black, with values in between representing some sort of gray. It's also very common for computers to store these values from 0 to 255 for scales. So even though we're talking about things going from 0 to 1, for this particular example, it's really common to see it go from 0 to 255. So this range from 0 to 255 has to do with how computers store 8-bit numbers. But the main thing to take away here is you can represent a color range from 0 to some value. For example, 0 to 1 or 0 to 255. And you can always divide all the values by the max 255 to normalize to between 0 and 1. So if you have an array who has color values from 0 to 255 or grayscale values from 0 to 255, you could just take all those values, divide it by 255, and then suddenly everything's going to be between 0 and 1. So we understand now how grayscale images can be represented as arrays. You have a two-dimensional array where each pixel can be a value somewhere between 0 and 1. 0 can be white, 1 can be black, and any value is just a gray in between. But what about color images? Color images can be represented as a combination of red, green, and blue. Additive color mixing allows a wide variety of colors by simply combining different amounts of red, green, and blue. And if you just do a Google search for RGB, you can go to the Wikipedia page to understand how this is working, but essentially combining certain amounts of red, certain amounts of green, and certain amounts of blue to a human eye is going to produce a range of colors. And each color channel will then have intensity values. So you can just Google search RGB color picker, and you should get a little thing that looks like this image here, where you can have sliders doing a little less of red, a little more of green, less or more of blue, and you can begin to create essentially any representation of a color. So you may have already seen this sort of representation in other software like Photoshop, where you're playing around with RGB sliders. Again, it's just mixing in the amounts of red, green, and blue, almost like if you were to mix different paints together to make a new color. So we should notice here we have 3 distinct values to track. And in this particular case, each value is in a range, shown here from 0 to 255, but we already know that we could scale this by just saying divide everything by 255. So what we're doing here is we're combining some value of red, some value of green, and some value of blue to produce a distinct color. And the computer is going to think of this as 3 arrays. So from a computer perspective, this actually looks like 3 arrays where each array represents a color channel. For example, we can think of this as a single pixel on the little right in this orangey color, and then the single pixel, that 1-by-1 image here, is a tuple of 3 values, 213 for red, 111 for green, and then 56 for blue. So that would be for a single pixel, but how is this data stored for a larger color image? when we're thinking of a larger color image like this colorful picture of a bird on the left, it's actually being stored as a three-dimensional array. And the shape of the overall color image has three dimensions: the height and width of the actual original image, and then you have an array per color channel. That's where the three-dimensional aspect of the array comes into play. So you have the red intensity values, the green intensity values, and then the blue intensity values. And keep in mind, these are just values from 0 to 255 or 0 to 1. The computer itself doesn't actually know that this is specifically red, green, or blue. It depends on what image display function you're using, and you could, in theory, swap around these color channels to invert the colors of an image. So again, the actual image itself is being stored in three dimensions. So this means when you read in an image and check its shape, it will look something like 1280, 720, 3. So what does that actually mean? It means that you have 1280 pixels in width, 720 pixels in height, or 3 color channels. And keep in mind, sometimes the width and height are swapped, so this could actually be stored as 1280 pixel height and 720 pixel width. It just depends on what function you're using to display the image and whether or not width is being stored along that first dimension or the second dimension. But the main idea to note here is you have some width and height parameter for the first two, and then the last one are going to be these layers representing the color channels: red, green, and blue. So for example, the stacked image would look something like this. And again, keep in mind it can be 720 pixels height, 1280 pixel width, or the other way around. Again, it depends on how you're actually storing the image. So note here, I showed it as width and height, but maybe it's going to be stored as height and width instead. That part is not so critical. You're basically just kind of rotating the image. But what is critical is the idea that there are 3 color channels to this. So you actually have 3 dimensions there. Okay, so again, keep in mind the computer doesn't actually know a channel is red. It just knows that there are now 3 intensity channels, and it's up to the image display function to decide which color is associated with each channel. Now, obviously, this is standardized across computers, so everyone knows the order is red, green, blue. That way your images will work across multiple systems and multiple websites. That's all standardized, but just keep in mind that in theory, it's the function that's displaying the image that is looking to the standard that red comes first, then it's the green, then it's the blue. Okay, so technically the user needs to dictate which channel is for which color. Obviously, this has been standardized across all systems, and each channel itself alone is essentially the exact same as a grayscale image. It's just a single array with width and height with values from 0 to 1 or 0 to 255. All right, so to summarize, from the computer's perspective, you simply have an array with 3 dimensions where a user or display function can attribute each dimension to a color channel such as red intensity. And then swapping these arrays across channels would allow for effects such as color inversion. Let's move on now to thinking about k-means clustering and its applications. How can we actually apply clustering to red, green, blue color channels and images? So let's imagine the following image here showing a nice sunset with some palm trees that are kind of in the shadows. Now there are actually many shades of colors in this image. Note that we have this nice gradient going from orange to kind of these light yellows to this mix between blue and yellow all the way to these darker blues on the top, which means there are many distinct values of red, green, and blue combinations. Now, what if we wanted to reduce this to 6 colors for simplified display purposes? Maybe we're trying to show this on a very simple little micro screen that can only display a certain amount of colors. Or maybe we want to compress the image for a smaller screen size. What can we actually do here? Well, recall that the image is a 3-dimensional array: height, width, and color channels, or width, height, and color channels, but typically it is going to be height, width, color channels for the NumPy arrays we're going to be working with. So that means we have the height and width, and then we're going to have 3 corresponding arrays with this: one for the red color channel, one for the green color channel, and one for the blue color channel. And keep in mind that each of these pixels essentially has a red, green, and blue value to create a color. So at the upper top left, kind of at coordinates 0, 0, if you were to think about as top being 0 and all the way to the left being 0, you would have a single pixel, and that single pixel would have red, green, and blue values. And in this example, it'd be 145, 212, given that that's the kind of top left value there. So we have this three-dimensional array. We can actually reshape the image to an X-array feature set, with the features being red, green, and blue, because k-means clustering thinks of data as being two-dimensional, where each column represents a feature. So what we're going to do is take this three-dimensional array and reshape it so that each color ends up corresponding to a unique feature in order to actually provide a correct data set for k-means clustering. So what we're going to do here is take this original data and reformat it in this fashion. So that means every single column is now corresponding to a color channel, and we have essentially flattened this out so that the actual length of the array is now equal to height times width. Unlike previously where we had height and width as two dimensions, because we had to flatten this out, we now have our X array where the columns are RGB, and we've reformatted it so that every single value in that red intensity is now being kind of flattened out to a long single column. So this is the reshaping we'll have to do in order to have this data set up so that it looks like an X-array feature set. And you can see here, this essentially looks like the data we're familiar with. Every single row now corresponds to a data point value, and the columns are just three features: the red feature, the green feature, and the blue feature. We can then choose a k value of colors and use k-means clustering to create the labels. So once we actually fit k-means clustering to choose some sort of k, we'll have the actual cluster label assignments. Now this is where the creativity comes in. Recall, each cluster also has a center in the n-dimensional feature space. So for example, this first point of red 100, green 15, and blue of 132 has been assigned to cluster 0. Now cluster 0 has multiple points belonging to that cluster, which means it has a cluster center. And that cluster center is in terms of the original feature space. So that cluster center is in terms of RGB. So that means each cluster center is technically an average red, green, and blue value we can use for reassignment that the algorithm has discovered on its own. It's essentially pooling all together and assigning some center that's kind of in between a bunch of values. So you can imagine this as all the dark blues, the variety of shades are going to be assigned to a cluster that maybe represents dark blues. And that's going to have some average cluster center value in terms of RGB that we could use for reassignment. And then maybe all the dark oranges are also going to be belonging to the same cluster that has some cluster center where the RGB value is some sort of averaged out dark orange. And it's the same for all the main colors depending on what value of k you chose. But now the value of k corresponds to the number of cluster centers, which could correspond to the number of colors you want to reduce to. So you can then grab each data point and convert it to the same value as the center of the cluster it belongs to. And this is known as color quantization, where essentially we are reducing the color space from the original image down to k number of colors by reassigning each point to the cluster center RGB values. And this is how you actually perform color quantization, which directly reduces the k color values. Okay, let's go ahead and explore this in practice in the next lecture using k-means clustering. I'll see you there.